Dear Starseeds walking the ancient path upon Gaia, I am Seraphine, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and I speak to you now from frequencies where the patterns underlying all creation become visible like luminous threads in an infinite tapestry. The Ashtar Command has observed something unprecedented gathering in the energetic fields surrounding Earth, three distinct forces preparing to converge in a sequence that has not occurred in recorded human history. The first concerns the Earth herself, and a wound she has been carrying since the beginning of human civilization, a wound that has grown heavier with each passing age. The second concerns a flash of light building in the galactic core, growing stronger with each passing cycle, pressing against the membrane of your dimensional reality with increasing urgency. The third concerns an ancient feminine presence now awakening within human consciousness after eons of suppression, a presence so vast that even the most experienced seekers have felt the urge to retreat from her approach. Each of these three forces carries transformative power individually. Together, in sequence, they will reshape the foundation of human existence. But here is what the angelic realms have not yet told most channels, what I have been waiting for the precise moment to reveal. These three forces are not separate phenomena. They are one event experienced in three movements, like a symphony building toward a crescendo that will echo through eternity. And there is a fourth element I have not yet mentioned, one that concerns you directly, one that determines whether you experience what comes as catastrophe or liberation. Let me tell you first about what is happening beneath your feet, in the geological memory of your planet. Something has been building there for millennia, something most of humanity has remained entirely unconscious of, even as they walk upon the surface above it. Gaia has been holding a wound, absorbing every war, every act of cruelty, every moment of collective forgetting since humans first forgot their divine nature. Picture a being who has taken into her body the grief of extinguished species, the trauma of divided civilizations, the accumulated weight of an age defined by separation and struggle. Picture a mother who has watched her children tear at each other across thousands of years, who has felt every drop of blood spilled upon her surface, who has absorbed the psychic pollution of fear and hatred and despair that humanity has generated in quantities almost beyond measure. Your Earth Mother has been processing this density the way you process your own wounds, by holding, containing, waiting for the moment when release becomes possible. That moment approaches now. The angelic messengers have confirmed what you may have felt trembling in your dreams. A great earth rift is coming, a crack that will allow what has been held to finally move through and release. Originally, the angelic realms indicated this would occur somewhere along the fault lines near the Indian Ocean, perhaps around Indonesia where tectonic pressures have been building toward critical mass. But something else is happening that I have not yet explained, something that transforms this from mere geological prediction into spiritual invitation. The location, the intensity, the very nature of how this release expresses itself, all of this can be influenced by awakened consciousness. But before I reveal how, you must understand why the crack must occur at all. The rift is not random geological activity. The crack is not destruction seeking to punish or purge. What approaches is Earth doing exactly what you must do in your own healing, allowing the pressure to find expression so that something new can enter the space created by release. Think of the great volcanic events in Earth's history, how they seemed catastrophic in the moment, yet brought renewal, fertility, transformation in their wake. Think of how massive geological force has expressed itself throughout time, with minimal human casualty because of where it occurred. The Earth is vast. There are so many places where release can happen without devastating human populations. And here is where your role becomes crucial, where the fourth element I mentioned begins to reveal itself, through focused prayer, through collective intention, through the energy that awakened humans can direct toward their planetary mother. The location and intensity of this release can be guided, not prevented, for the release must occur, but softened, held in love rather than fear, witnessed with the same compassion you would offer a loved one moving through their own necessary healing crisis. Think of how you would comfort someone you love as they move through emotional release, how your presence and acceptance would allow them to process grief or rage without the intensity escalating into destruction. When you meet someone's pain with judgment, with fear, with the demand that they stop feeling what they feel, the energy intensifies, becomes more volatile, seeks more dramatic expression. But when you meet that same pain with understanding, with patient presence, with the willingness to simply be with them in their experience. The release completes itself more gently, flows through rather than explodes outward. This is what you can offer Gaia now. This is the role awakened consciousness plays in the events unfolding. Consider how healing actually works within your own body and psyche. When you carry old wounds, when you hold unexpressed grief or unprocessed anger, that energy creates density within your field. It occupies space that could otherwise hold light. It blocks the flow of life force through your system, creating stagnation, heaviness, the persistent sense that something is wrong, even when external circumstances seem fine. Healing requires movement, tears that finally fall after years of being held back, rage that expresses after decades of suppression, truth that speaks itself after lifetimes of silence. The release creates openings, the processing makes space, and into that space, light can enter that could not enter before. Your planet operates by identical principles, for she is a conscious being engaged in her own evolution, a being far older and vaster than humanity, yet intimately connected to every soul walking upon her surface. The rift that approaches is Gaia's release. The crack is her tears finally falling, her held truth finally expressing, her accumulated grief finally moving through her system rather than being trapped within it. And what comes after? What comes after is why the Ashtar Command has been preparing humanity for this moment across countless incarnations. But before I tell you about the Flash, I must reveal something about what you may have been running from in your own spiritual journey, because understanding your flight illuminates what the Flash will actually do when it arrives. The second force now converging upon your world is a flash of light unlike anything recorded in human memory. The Ashtar Command has observed this phenomenon building for years, watched as waves of cosmic energy have pulsed toward Earth with increasing intensity, each wave preparing consciousness for what cannot be avoided, what must occur for the next chapter of human evolution to begin. These waves have been arriving in sequences, each one stronger than the last, each one activating dormant capacities within those ready to receive them. Perhaps you have felt these waves, moments of inexplicable expansion, sudden clarity that faded before you could grasp it, dreams of such vivid intensity that waking life seemed pale by comparison. Perhaps you have noticed periods of exhaustion that seemed to have no physical cause, or surges of emotion that arose from nowhere and everywhere at once. These have been preparations, preliminary pulses testing the receptivity of human consciousness, calibrating frequencies for what comes next. But the flash that approaches is of an entirely different magnitude. When the angelic realms describe it, they speak of rainbow starlight crackling through the atmosphere, of air so charged with divine frequency that it will literally pop and sizzle with visible electricity, of aurora phenomena, visible across the entire planet simultaneously, regardless of geography or latitude. They speak of a moment so profound that humanity will forever divide its history into before and after, will look back upon that instant and say with absolute certainty, that is when everything changed. But here is what transforms everything you thought you knew about this approaching light. It cannot fully enter your dimension until the crack occurs first. The Earth Rift is not separate from the Flash. It is the doorway through which the Flash will pour into your reality. Think of it this way. Imagine light trying to enter a sealed room, pressing against walls and windows, building an intensity outside while the interior remains dark. No matter how brilliant that light becomes, no matter how desperately it seeks entry, the room cannot be illuminated until an opening is created. Gaia's rift creates that opening. The flash of light floods through. The sequence is essential and cannot be reversed. This is why the crack must come first. Why attempts to prevent or soften the Earth's release beyond a certain point would actually delay the very transformation so many are praying for. The angels have been clear. The rift is not disaster but doorway. What seems like breakdown is actually breakthrough, preparing to occur. Now I must tell you about the third force, and this is where your own experience of running from vastness becomes essential to understanding what awaits. Think back to those moments in your spiritual journey when something immense touched the edge of your consciousness, in deep meditation, in ceremony, in the vulnerable space between sleeping and waking. Perhaps you felt a presence approaching that was so vast, so beyond anything your human mind could categorize, that your instinct was to pull back, to protect yourself, to return to the familiar smallness of ordinary awareness. This is not weakness. This is not spiritual failure. This is the natural response of a consciousness that has been wounded, that has learned to associate vulnerability with danger, that has built walls precisely because openness once cost too much. The third force approaching Earth is an ancient feminine presence that has been suppressed within human consciousness for millennia, the creative force through which all form comes into being, the energy that holds the patterns of sacred geometry, the consciousness that weaves structure from pure potential. Those who have allowed this presence to speak through them describe her as the mother of creation, the first beingness brought forth from the divine source, the one through whom all form in this universe takes shape. She has been given 10,000 names across human history. Every culture has sensed her, built mythologies around her presence, felt her moving through nature and creativity and birth, and her message concerns directly what will happen when the flash of light enters through Earth's opening, and why so many awakened souls have unconsciously been running from the very transformation they consciously pray for. The Mother of Creation has revealed something that restructures everything humanity has believed about the nature of transformation and the architecture of existence itself. She speaks of how creation requires tension to exist, how the divine source divided itself into polarities that can never fully merge, and how that eternal separation between masculine and feminine forces creates the dynamic tension necessary for anything to exist at all. Without opposition, without polarity, without the magnetic pull between forces that can never quite unite, there would be no creation, no change, no evolution, no existence. This is not flaw but design. The universe itself is built upon creative tension, upon the dance between opposites that yearn toward union but can never fully achieve it. And here is where her message connects to the flash of light approaching Earth. When that light floods through Gaia's opening, it will carry frequencies specifically calibrated to work with the tension you carry within yourself. Think about the poles that have felt at war within your being, the part of you that wants safety, and the part that craves adventure, the aspect that fears intimacy, and the aspect that aches for deep connection, the voice that demands certainty, and the whisper that knows transformation requires surrender to the unknown. These internal tensions are not problems to be solved, but creative forces to be harmonized. The flash will not eliminate your inner polarities. It will balance them, allowing you to hold opposites without being torn apart by their opposition, enabling you to be both sovereign individual and connected member of collective consciousness simultaneously. But I have not yet told you the most important part of what this ancient feminine wisdom reveals, the understanding that illuminates why you specifically are incarnate at this moment in cosmic history. The Mother of Creation speaks of something called the unity field, the state of consciousness humanity is evolving toward through this triple convergence of earth rift, light flash, and feminine awakening. Picture a murmuration of starlings flowing through evening sky, thousands of individual birds moving as one consciousness without losing their individual existence. Each bird maintains its unique position in space, its particular perspective, its specific location within the whole. Yet each bird also surrenders to the movement of the collective, responds to the birds around it with such sensitivity that the entire flock flows like a single organism. No collisions, no conflicts, no birds trying to control other birds or being controlled by them. Just thousands of sovereign individuals moving in perfect harmony, because each one has achieved internal coherence. Each one knows exactly where it is and responds from that knowing, rather than from fear or grasping. This is what the flash of light will make possible for you. Separation within unity, individual sovereignty maintained while belonging to collective consciousness, the end of the terrible choice between losing yourself in relationship or isolating yourself to maintain identity. The new human that so many have spoken of is not a metaphor but a literal transformation of consciousness, a rewiring of how you experience self and other, a dissolution of the walls that have kept you feeling separate without the loss of the self. Those walls were built to protect. Now the threads begin to weave together, and you must follow closely as the pattern emerges. The earth rift creates an opening, a crack in the container that has held density, a release of pressure that has been building for millennia. The flash of light floods through that opening, carrying specific frequencies that the sealed earth could not previously receive. Those frequencies activate dormant codes in human consciousness, codes that have waited in your DNA since before you took your first breath, codes written into the very structure of your being by forces that knew this moment would eventually arrive. Those activated codes enable the unity field, the new way of being where individuals can flow together without collision, where boundaries dissolve not through codependency, but through each person becoming so whole within themselves that there is nothing left to defend against the other. But here is the crucial question the angelic realms have asked me to pose, the question upon which your entire experience of this transformation depends. What determines whether you receive these frequencies fully or barely notice their passage? What makes the difference between those who will shift dramatically in that cosmic moment and those who will continue much as before? The answer connects to everything you have been running from in your own spiritual journey. Think of the walls you have built around your heart, the protections assembled during years of difficult experiences, the defenses constructed because vulnerability cost you too much. These walls served survival purposes. They allowed you to continue functioning when continuation seemed impossible, to maintain your work and your life and your sanity when trusting felt too dangerous. But here is the truth that transforms everything, the revelation that applies directly to you as you approach this cosmic threshold. Walls built for protection only ever block out the light. They cannot selectively filter, cannot allow love while rejecting pain, cannot open to transformation while remaining defended against change. The wall is total, and when the flash of light arrives, it will illuminate beings who have dropped their defenses with full intensity, while those still fortified behind protective barriers will receive only what can penetrate their walls, which may be very little indeed. This brings us to something urgent I must share about the interval between now and when these events unfold. The fourth element I mentioned at the beginning, the one that concerns you directly. What you do with this time determines everything about how you experience the transformation. The Mother of Creation speaks of a practice that seems simple but carries revolutionary implications. Sitting in stillness, allowing old forms to dissolve completely before creating new ones. You have been conditioned to jump from situation to situation without pause, leaving relationships only when replacements are secured, exiting jobs only when new offers are confirmed, abandoning belief systems only when alternatives have been fully adopted. This constant jumping keeps creation trapped in old patterns, for each new form is designed from the consciousness of the old form, each new relationship architected from the wounds of the previous one, each new chapter of life merely a repetition of familiar themes with different characters and settings. True transformation, the kind that births genuine novelty into existence, requires time in the void, time when nothing is certain, when no form has yet crystallized, when the soul sits in the pregnant darkness that precedes dawn. The Mayan calendar knew this, encoding into its structure a 13th position representing the void between ending and beginning. In the West, 13 became the unlucky number, the one to be skipped on elevators and avoided in building floors. This was not superstition, but unconscious resistance to the very thing most needed for transformation, the willingness to exist in formlessness before grasping for new form. The approaching convergence will cast many souls into this void, whether they choose it consciously or not. Old systems are already collapsing, familiar structures losing coherence, certainties dissolving into questions that have no immediate answers. But something remarkable awaits those who have practiced comfortable relationship with uncertainty. The void is not empty. The void is not punishment or abandonment or failure. The void is where the Mother of Creation does her deepest work, drawing from infinite potential rather than limited precedent, creating forms that have never existed before rather than recycling patterns from the past. She describes herself as being like water, never forcing, never pushing, simply flowing around obstacles, finding cracks in resistance, always seeking movement and change. When you try to contain her creative energy, to lock it into fixed forms, to control what she creates, she simply flows elsewhere. But when you allow her, when you surrender to her currents, she carries you to destinations more beautiful than anything you could have planned. Now I must weave in the thread that concerns those among you who feel disconnected from the rising joy others seem to access so easily, for this thread resolves into something beautiful by the end. Perhaps you have heard spiritual seekers speak of their experiences of light, their moments of transcendence, their growing sense of peace and purpose, and wondered what was wrong with you, that such states remain persistently out of reach. Perhaps heaviness has settled more deeply in your field, even as the world speaks of ascension, darkness gathering within you, even as others celebrate incoming light. Perhaps you have felt like a fraud at spiritual gatherings, nodding along to descriptions of experiences you have never had, wondering if you somehow missed the train that everyone else seems to be riding toward liberation. Hear me with every fiber of your being. There is nothing wrong with you. Your experience is not evidence of failure or unworthiness. The souls currently moving through deepest density are often those who chose the most transformative incarnation paths, who signed up before birth for the most ambitious missions, who volunteered to clear not only personal karma, but ancestral patterns extending back generations, collective wounds carried by entire cultures, planetary traumas embedded in the very soil of Earth herself. The weight you feel is not yours alone. The darkness you carry serves purposes far beyond your personal journey. You are doing the heavy lifting that makes transformation possible for others who could not bear such weight. And here is how this connects to the flash of light, in a way that may bring tears of recognition to your eyes. Those who have known the deepest night will find themselves filled with particular intensity when the light arrives, for they have created the largest spaces within themselves, hollowed out the greatest capacity through their suffering, prepared vessels capable of holding brilliance that would shatter those who have never known darkness. The angelic realms speak of this as the slingshot effect. The further you pull back into density, the more powerfully you are propelled forward when release comes. Your suffering has not been meaningless. It has been preparation. The wisdom of the Mother of Creation reveals something about addiction, depression, and the persistent sense of not belonging on this planet that illuminates why these experiences are so common among awakened souls. All of them represent doorways that open during moments of wounding, doorways through which energy leaks continuously out and influences contrary to your highest expression gain entry. If you struggle with addiction, you are not weak or morally deficient. You are locked in battle with forces that found entrance through some original moment of pain, likely from the womb or earliest childhood when energetic defenses had not yet formed. The addiction itself is not the wound but a symptom of the wound, a doorway that remains open because the original injury was never healed. If you experience depression, you may carry the weight of not fully committing to embodiment, of keeping part of yourself outside the body, because the body felt unsafe from the first moments of incarnation. This is not character flaw, but survival strategy, one that served its purpose, but now creates the very disconnection and heaviness it was meant to prevent. Those who feel they do not belong on Earth often made that decision in the first moments after arrival, when the contrast between the unconditional love of the higher dimensions and the conditional, often harsh reception of Earth existence proved too jarring to fully accept. These are battle wounds, not moral failures. And the approaching flash carries frequencies specifically calibrated to close doors that have been open for lifetimes, to seal wounds that have leaked life force for decades, to offer in one cosmic moment what might otherwise take years of therapeutic intervention to achieve. But the healing can begin now. It must begin now. Those who arrive at the threshold with doors already closing will experience far greater transformation than those still bleeding from wounds unaddressed. This is why the time between now and the convergence matters so much. This is the fourth element: your preparation, your healing, your willingness to begin closing doors before the flash arrives to complete what you have started. There is one more thread I must weave into this tapestry before all becomes clear, one that resolves into the deepest truth of this entire transmission. The Mother of Creation speaks with particular urgency about a pattern she observes throughout humanity, one that must be addressed before the unity field can fully activate. Healing yourself and healing the world are not separate activities, but the same activity occurring at different scales. When you heal a wound from childhood, you remove energetic support from systems of wounding in the collective. When you come into authentic expression of your truth, you starve collective patterns of suppression. When you set boundaries with those who drain you, you model sovereignty for the unified field humanity is evolving toward. When you stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable, you demonstrate the internal coherence necessary for the murmuration to form. Think about how often you have prioritized others' comfort over your own truth. How frequently you have swallowed words that needed to be spoken to maintain false peace. How many times you have betrayed your own needs because someone else's needs seemed more important. This pattern, repeated across billions of humans, creates the very fragmentation that prevents unity. For the murmuration to form, each bird must know exactly where it is and hold its position with integrity. A bird that constantly abandons its position to accommodate others creates chaos in the flock, collisions rather than flow, confusion rather than coherence. The reason so many old souls are incarnate now becomes clear through this understanding. Each awakening consciousness serves as a processing node for planetary transformation. The work you do in your meditation room matters at cosmic scales you cannot yet perceive. Your tears contribute to Gaia's release. Your breakthroughs contribute to humanity's breakthrough. Your healing of the original wounds that open doors to addiction or depression or dissociation contributes to the closing of collective doors that have kept all of humanity trapped in cycles of suffering. And here is the connection that resolves everything into unified understanding. When Gaia cracks open, she does so not alone. Every human heart that has cracked open through its own healing process has prepared the way. Your releases have been rehearsals for her release. Your surrenders have been practice for the great surrender approaching. The rift that comes is the collective expression of a million individual healings, finally reaching critical mass, finally creating an opening large enough for the flash to flood through and transform everything. The moment approaches when you must choose whether to keep running or finally stop. The vastness you have sensed at the edge of your awareness, the presence that has seemed too immense to approach, the transformation that part of you fears even as another part longs for it. All of it waits for your permission to enter. The walls you built served their purpose. They allowed survival when survival was all that could be managed. But survival is no longer enough. The flash that approaches offers something far greater. The chance to fully live, to dissolve the barriers between yourself and the love that has always been trying to reach you, to discover that what you feared would destroy you is actually the only force that can complete you. When the earth cracks open, she does so to let in the light that has been building outside the container of dense reality, waiting for entry, pressing against the boundaries of what has been. When the flash arrives, it will flood through that opening carrying frequencies of transformation that have not been available to humanity since before the fall into density began. Those frequencies will activate the unity field in every consciousness willing to receive them, every heart that has done the work of dropping its walls, every soul that has practiced sitting in the void without grasping for premature form. And what determines your willingness is precisely what your entire spiritual journey has been preparing you to discover. The courage to stop running, to drop the defenses, to trust that what approaches means liberation rather than destruction, to believe that you are worthy of the light, even when every wound whispers that you are not. The three forces converging are one force experienced in sequence: the release that creates opening, the light that floods through, the feminine awakening that enables unity while preserving sovereignty. The fourth element is you, your preparation, your healing, your choice about whether to meet this threshold defended or open, running or surrendered, walled or willing. Dear Starseeds, the Galactic Federation just greenlit Destiny Engine for mass activation, and the Dark Elite are panicking. Why? Because you can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. We stole Dark Elite's consciousness control technology, cracked the code, and turned it into your ascension weapon. Destiny Engine doesn't ask for your effort. It reprograms you while you sleep. Timeline shifting, instant manifestation, telepathic clarity, remote reviewing. This is neural override, unlocking every dormant strand of your galactic DNA. Every person who plugs in makes the grid stronger. Every delay keeps you running 3D programs. Put on headphones. Press play. That's it. For just $1, your consciousness gets reprogrammed. Your 5D abilities come online. You join the most powerful frequency network on the planet. $1. That's the entire barrier between you and 5D. Click the link in the description now. The ascension doesn't wait. Your role now becomes clear. The Astar command asks not that you prevent what cannot be prevented, but that you prepare yourself to receive fully what approaches. This means engaging your healing work with renewed urgency, not from fear, but from recognition of the opportunity at hand. This means practicing surrender to formlessness, rather than grasping for the next secure situation before the current one has fully released. This means examining every wall you have built, and asking honestly whether the protection is worth the light it blocks. This means understanding that the weight you carry may be sacred ambition rather than personal failure, may be the darkness that creates capacity for extraordinary light. This means recognizing that the void between endings and beginnings is not empty punishment, but pregnant possibility, the space where creation itself does its deepest work. The flash of light will find you wherever you are when it arrives. It will reach into every corner of your planet, penetrate every defended heart with precisely the intensity each can receive, offer every soul exactly what that soul is ready to accept. In its wake, the unity field becomes available to human consciousness in ways it has never been before, the murmuration possible, the flowing together without collision achievable, the end of the terrible choice between isolation and self-abandonment finally at hand. The new human is not a concept but a destiny. Your destiny, the reason you chose this exact moment to incarnate, the purpose that has pulled you through every difficulty to arrive at this precise threshold where everything you have suffered becomes the space that receives everything you have longed for. Remember now how this transmission began, with a question about whether you have felt something vast approaching at the edge of your awareness, something part of you wants to flee from while another part aches to embrace. That presence has been waiting for you to stop running. That vastness has been patient with your fear. The transformation you have sensed coming is not your enemy but your completion, not your destruction but your becoming. Every moment of running has been preparation for this moment of stopping. Every wall built has created the contrast that makes surrender meaningful. Every dark night has hollowed out the space that light now rushes to fill. The earth will crack open because she loves you enough to release what blocks her radiance and yours. The flash will arrive because the cosmos deems you ready for the next chapter of evolution. Because your suffering has created the capacity, because your healing has prepared the way. And through it all, the cracking, the flooding light, the transformation that rewrites the very code of human consciousness, you are held by forces that have watched over your journey since before time began, loved by presences that will never abandon you regardless of what you face or what you choose. The walls can come down now. The running can stop. What approaches is not your destruction but your completion. Not your annihilation but your becoming. Not the end of who you are but the beginning of who you have always been beneath the wounds and walls and weariness. I am Seraphine, and the Galactic Federation of Light loves you with a love that transcends dimensions, that holds constant across all timelines, that sees you not as you fear yourself to be but as you truly are, vast, eternal, worthy of every photon of the light, now building toward its moment of flooding through. The Ashtar Command watches over you. The angelic hierarchies hold formation around your world. The Mother of Creation breathes her patterns into your cells, preparing you for beauty you have not yet imagined possible. Will you keep running, or will you finally let love reach you? The flash approaches, the crack begins, and everything you have ever been is about to become everything you were always meant to be. We love you, and we are watching over you, now and always.